Your toddler isn't talking yet, and you've been told, don't worry, they'll catch up. But something in your gut is telling you, what if it's more than just a late start? Here's what most people won't tell you. A speech delay and autism can look almost identical in the beginning, but the differences? They matter. They matter a lot. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to look for. Hi everyone, we're Three Koi Fishes, a team of parents with over 80 years of combined parenting experience. We dive into pediatric guidance, research it, and share what parents really need to know. Let's start with something real. If you're watching this video right now, chances are you've already been up late at night, typing things into Google like, is my toddler autistic, or speech delay versus autism? And you're not alone. According to the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders, approximately 1 in 14 children in the US, that's 7.2%, have experienced a disorder related to voice, speech, or language. And the CDC's latest data from 2025 shows that 1 in 31 children, 3.2%, has been identified with autism spectrum disorder. That's a record high. So here's the truth. Speech delays are common. Autism is more common than most people realize. And sometimes, they overlap. That's what makes this so confusing for parents. But here's the good news. There are key differences. And once you know what to look for, you won't feel so lost anymore. So let's break this down together. What is a speech delay? First, let's talk about what a speech delay actually is, because the term gets thrown around a lot, and it's not always clear what it means. A speech delay simply means your child's language skills are developing more slowly than expected for their age. Maybe they're not saying as many words as other kids. Maybe they're hard to understand. Maybe they haven't started combining words yet when other toddlers their age already are. But, and this is important, a child with just a speech delay typically still communicates in other ways. They point, they gesture, they make eye contact. They show you things because they want to share the experience with you. They respond to their name. They understand what you're saying, even if they can't say it back yet. Research published in the journal Pediatrics in 2017 found that as many as 60% of toddlers with expressive language delays may catch up to their peers' language abilities by age 4. And broader research suggests that 60 to 80% of late talkers score within the normal range by the time they enter kindergarten. So if your child is a late talker, there's real hope in those numbers. Many children do catch up. But there's an important but. Those numbers apply to children with isolated speech delays. Children who only have trouble with expressive language, getting the words out, but whose social skills and understanding are developing normally. When a child has delays in both expressive and receptive language, meaning they're not talking and they don't seem to understand what you're saying, only about 25% catch up without intervention. That's why knowing the difference matters so much. What is autism spectrum disorder? Now let's talk about autism. And I want to be really careful here because there's a lot of fear around this word. But knowledge is not something to fear. Knowledge is power. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, is a neurodevelopmental condition. It affects how a child communicates, interacts socially, and processes the world around them. It's called a spectrum because it looks different in every child. Some children with autism speak fluently. Others are completely nonverbal. Some make great eye contact. Others don't. The CDC reports that ASD is about 3.4 times more prevalent in boys than in girls. But researchers believe many girls go undiagnosed because their symptoms can present differently. Now, many children with autism DO have speech delays. And that's where the confusion starts. A parent sees that their child isn't talking, and they don't know if it's just a speech delay or if something else is going on underneath. So, let's go through the 5 key differences. These are the things that can help you tell them apart. Key difference number 1, social communication, the why behind communication. This is the single biggest difference, and it's not about whether your child communicates. It's about why they communicate. A child with a speech delay will still try to connect with you. They might not have the words yet, but they'll point at something exciting like an airplane and look back at you with a big smile, as if to say, "Are you seeing this?" That's called sharing. They're communicating for the joy of sharing an experience. A child with autism, on the other hand, they communicate primarily to get their needs met. They might lead you by the hand to the fridge because they want juice, but they're less likely to point at something just to share it with you. This difference, requesting versus sharing, is one of the earliest and most reliable indicators that researchers look for. So ask yourself this: does my child try to show me things? Do they bring me a toy just because they're proud of it? Do they look at my face to see my reaction? If the answer is yes, that's a really encouraging sign. Key difference number 2, joint attention and gestures. This leads right into the second difference, joint attention. Joint attention is your child's ability to share focus with you on something. For example, you point at a dog across the street. Your child follows your point, looks at the dog, and then looks back at you. That back and forth, the looking at the thing, and then looking at you, that's joint attention. And it's a foundational social skill. Research from Autism Speaks and published in multiple studies has found that deficits in joint attention are among the first signs of autism, often detectable in the first year of life. Children with a speech delay typically develop joint attention normally. They follow your gaze. They follow your point. They point at things themselves. Children with autism often have difficulty with this. They may not follow a point. They may not look where you're looking. And importantly, research published in 2021 found that autistic children pay significantly less attention to pointing gestures, even when they have strong language skills. And the gesture piece is important too. Research published in The Transmitter found that toddlers with autism are less likely to use communicative gestures like waving, nodding, or shaking their head compared to children with typical development or even children with other developmental delays. So gestures are a really useful clue. If your child is a late talker, but they're pointing, waving bye-bye, and nodding yes and no, that's a very different picture than a child who isn't using any gestures at all. Key difference number 3, play patterns. Now let's talk about play, because how a child plays can tell you a lot. Children with a speech delay generally develop pretend play on schedule or close to it. They'll pretend to cook food. They'll put a blanket on a doll and say night-night. They'll pick up a banana and pretend it's a phone. That kind of imaginative play shows that a child understands symbols, that one thing can stand for another. It's a cognitive and social milestone, and it usually shows up between 18 and 24 months. Children with autism may play differently. They might focus on one specific part of a toy, like spinning the wheels of a car instead of driving it. They might line objects up in very precise rows. They might play with the same toy the same way over and over and become upset if you try to change it. Now, every child likes to line things up sometimes. That alone doesn't mean anything. It's when you see a pattern, limited pretend play combined with very repetitive or rigid play, that it becomes more significant. Key difference number 4, sensory and repetitive behaviors. The fourth difference is sensory processing and repetitive behaviors. Children with autism frequently experience the world differently through their senses. Some are hypersensitive. They might cover their ears at sounds that don't bother other kids, or refuse certain textures of food or clothing. Others are hyposensitive. They seek out intense sensory input, like crashing into things or staring at lights. You may also see repetitive behaviors, sometimes called stimmying. Hand flapping, rocking, spinning, repeating certain sounds or phrases. These behaviors often serve a purpose for the child. They can be calming or regulating. Children with a speech delay alone typically don't show these patterns. They may have some sensory preferences, most kids do, but they usually don't have the same intensity or range of sensory differences. And before we get to the fifth difference, I want you to hear this. If you're seeing some of these signs, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means you're paying attention. And paying attention is exactly what your child needs you to do. Key difference number 5. Language patterns, not just how much, but how. The fifth difference is something a lot of parents miss. It's not just about how many words your child has. It's about how they use language. A child with a speech delay typically develops language in the expected order, just slower. They babble, then they get a few words, then they start combining words. The pattern is normal. The timeline is just stretched. Children with autism may show a different pattern entirely. Some children develop language and then seem to lose it. That's called regression, and it happens in roughly 25 to 30% of children later diagnosed with autism. Others develop what's called echolalia. They repeat words or phrases they've heard, sometimes from TV shows or books, sometimes from things you've said. They might repeat the question instead of answering it. You say, "Do you want juice?" And they say, "Do you want juice?" instead of "yes." Some children with autism may also learn language in an unusual order. They might memorize long phrases or scripts before they can say simple single words spontaneously. Again, on its own, any one of these things might not mean much. But when you see a pattern, echolalia plus limited gestures plus differences in play, that's when the picture starts to become clearer. What to do next, early intervention, and hope. Okay, so you've watched this video. Maybe you're seeing some of these signs. Maybe you're not sure. Either way, here's what I want you to know. You don't need a diagnosis to take action. You can start right now. Talk to your pediatrician. Ask for a developmental screening. One of the most widely used tools is the MCHAT, the Modified Checklist for Autism in Toddlers. A meta-analysis of 50 studies published in JAMA Pediatrics in 2023 found that the MCHAT has a sensitivity of 83% and a specificity of 94%. It's a free screening tool and it's available online. If a screening raises concerns, you can get a referral for a comprehensive evaluation with a developmental pediatrician, a child psychologist, or a speech-language pathologist. And here is the most important statistic I'm going to share in this entire video. Research shows that intervention beginning before age 3 yields significantly greater positive outcomes compared to intervention starting after age 5. The young brain has incredible plasticity. Its ability to rewire, to adapt, to grow new connections is at its peak in those first few years. And a 2025 study published by Global RPH reported that children who received early intervention showed an average IQ increase of 18 points, with an 87% success rate when intervention started at 18 months. Let me say that again. 18 points. That is not a small number. That is life-changing. Whether your child has a speech delay, autism, or both, early intervention works. The research is overwhelming. The earlier you start, the better the outcomes. I want to leave you with this. You're here. You're watching this. You're educating yourself. That already puts you ahead. The fact that you care enough to search for answers, that tells me everything I need to know about the kind of parent you are. Your child doesn't need a perfect parent. They need a present one. And you are showing up for them right now in this moment. Don't let fear hold you back from getting answers. And don't let anyone dismiss your concerns. You know your child better than anyone. Trust that instinct. If you found this information useful and want other parents to know, please hit the subscribe button to help grow the channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.